Hi, my name is Rene. In this video, I'm going to talk about the psychology of the transference, the actual inner psychological experience of enlightenment at death. And I'm going to do so by reading aloud from my book, Awakening After Life. And because here I've done a lot of research and I go through a lot of really interesting quotes from other writings that are really important into this subject. First, I want to say that that even the near-death experience, which is my background, it actually shows us, as I've explained in other videos, that the essence of what we would call heaven or enlightenment is a state, a feeling state, and a feeling of heightened awareness. And this is I have a piece here I want to read from Dr. Peter Fenwick from his research. He found that even though that the light, which is predominant mostly in near-death experience, that was experienced by 72%, but he found that the feeling state was even more predominant. He found that this feeling state was experienced by 88% of people. And this is how he explains the projections into this dimension which interacts with our mentality, as I explained in another video. I'll just read aloud from Dr. Peter Fenwick. He says, although many of these visions of paradise include strong, well-formed visual images, sometimes the imagery is much less pictorial, at times almost losing its form completely. This is what some people call the void or emptiness. And yet it still remains intensely emotional. So it's not empty of feeling or sensation or anything. It is very, very intense emotion, like an explosion, it's just unimaginable. And still gives this very strong impression of heightened awareness. And this is where in my study and what I do, I connect the study of near-death experiences to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, because here we have the focus on consciousness and awareness. And we also find in the work of Dr. Raymond Moody in his book Life After Life, we find that he explains that some near-death experiences, they have the experience as if, he calls it when they leave the body, they become a spiritual body. But they explain this sensation as being a point of consciousness, or quote, as being pure consciousness. And this is where I link, also from my personal experience, I link it to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And just to read from a quote here from the Tibetan Book of the Dead to make the connection, I'll just jump to the next page here. From Buddhism, we can learn that the Buddhist tradition tells us about this, they call it mind light, the light and mind. That the light is a matrix of the mind. They're interconnected. They're in a sense one. That, this is a quote, whoever can hold this light will experience the limitless awareness of highest bliss of enlightenment. All separation between space and energy, here and there, past, present, and future falls away. At this point, we will experience the fundamental truth of reality, where all dualities merge into transcendent oneness, and we experience the supreme joy, as it is called in Buddhism. And this is equivalent to the near-death experiencer who say it is love, it is peace, it is joyful. It is the same explanation we get from the near-death research. This is exactly what we find in the near-death experience, where people relate the joy and the ecstasy, as I just explained. Peter Fenwick calls this the coming home, and he tells us that people feel it as if, quote, they had always known this state, and that birth, life with its pains, and death, all are departures from an underlying consciousness. And this is the connection to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where the ultimate reality really is the true nature of the mind, which is the underlying consciousness. Here we could make the connection. Buddhism teaches that people who do not reach enlightenment do so either because they do not recognize the clear light, or because they are not able to remain in its continuity. That's how the Tibetan book explains the dividing line, whether we stay in enlightenment or we bounce back and become reborn. But then it also explains that to train in the continuity of the ultimate nature of the clear light means to practice a state of wakefulness, resting in who we are. That's why, as I explained in another video, that the question of knowing who we are, having a solid foundation on our true nature, that is really the key to enlightenment, because that's who we return to. We return to our true nature, our true self, which is the homecoming. So whether we meditate on emptiness, as the Buddhists do, or practice mindfulness while doing other activities in our daily lives, this could be running or working out or even doing the dishes, whatever connects us to who we are, that is really the practice of enlightenment. And here's a quote again from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Luminosity, that means the light, which is the ground luminosity, that is the ultimate nature of reality, the mind light. It refers to what is actual, simply that which is naturally present. This would be reality as it is, no projections, just reality as it is. Training in it means simply maintaining a continuity of wakefulness. So being awake in the mind, being mindful, present, aware, being in the now, that is really what it is, and that is the key to enlightenment in life, and also when we leave this life and enter our true nature when we die. I will just read, because now, of course, you could ask, what happens to me in this transference? What happens to the psychological? What happens to the I, to the sense of self, to the ego? The Dalai Lama explains to us that there is only the very subtle mind energy, and upon that basis you can impute the very subtle person I. At that time there isn't any gross I at all. Gross I will be the ego. So the two, the gross self and the very subtle self, the subtle self is the true self, is your true nature, do not manifest simultaneously. So in a way it's a form of ego death. As you leave the body, your ego dies, your gross self dies, and you become your subtle self, which is your true nature. That's really the transference, and that's what happens to the psychology in it. We can also understand this in the psychology of Carl Jung. He explains to us here. The union of the conscious mind, or ego personality, with the unconscious, personified as anima, is the label he uses, produces a new personality compounded of both. Not that the new personality is a third thing, midway between conscious and unconscious. It is both together. Since it transcends consciousness, it can no longer be called ego, but must be given the name self. The self too is both ego and non-ego, subjective and objective, individual and collective. It is the uniting symbol which epitomizes the total union of opposites. So it is the oneness, the merger of oneness with your true essence, your true nature. So in my own experience, I explained, so where was I, my ego? It had died in this profound revelation, and what was left was a new me united with everything, individual and collective in total oneness. The reality that I believed in before was dead, and what was born in its place was a new understanding of the ultimate truth of reality. To be reborn in this new reality, all we have to do is surrender to it. Surrender to the love by remembering it is love. That is really the key. Its quality, the quality of our true nature, the quality of enlightenment is love. And that is the key that takes us from this world into the next. May all beings be happy. I wish you good luck.